I know you're thinking three things. One, Mr. X, what's going on showing the chest hair? Notice I didn't pluralize that. There's only one. Why is this statue of Wolverine not painted? And three, why another crazy iteration of Wolverine? Well, as you know, right behind me, and we're going to talk about those statues, Wolverine's been around for a long time. So it only makes sense that there's different iterations of him throughout the ages. Because Marvel estimates him to be about 150 years old or so. So this medieval Wolverine, because medieval times was, well, that was like 1,500 years ago. Yeah, this don't make sense. Hey, my name is Mr. X. Welcome to the Extreme Channel. We are giving away $1,000 statues to you guys. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. Today we're looking at this custom unpainted statue, or a kit of Wolverine. So if you're a follower of the channel, you know that I love Wolverine. I've owned, I think, over 40 different Wolverine statues. Now I have it down to about 5. And most of those 5 are actually in a similar line to this medieval Wolverine right here. So let's take a quick recap. First, we have this guy right here where Wolverine assumably was in a war. Maybe it was Vietnam, maybe it was World War II, who knows. Then kind of progressing with the age, he studied to be a samurai. One of my favorite statues and most expensive right here. And then one when he went out in the wilderness. We don't know if this is later in his life or earlier in his life. And then here, like I said, we have a medieval one. While it doesn't necessarily make sense from a time perspective, and as a quick disclaimer, I'm the one that calls them medieval, because that's kind of what they wore, I think. I could be totally off. When I order a statue, I typically don't do too much more research on it, because I want to wait till I get it on the table and have fresh thoughts. But the same group that did most of those in the back that are highly sought after in some of my favorite statues announced they're doing a few more very similar stuff. Not necessarily in the same line, but I think it is. It's the same scale, and again, it's different iterations of Wolverine throughout the ages. So this was one of them. I ordered it right away. Took about a year to make, I believe, or so. And I do have another one on the way. In full disclosure, I haven't seen. It's another version of the Soldier Wolverine. So anyway, today we're going to review this. Obviously, we can't do the traditional review because he is not painted. So there's going to be no paint category in our rating system today. However, Mrs. X is going to take on this beast, and she is extremely nervous. While she's used to taking on big beasts, she has only painted a few statues. You remember this thing? This was one of her first statues she ever did. And she also did another Wolverine statue, this guy right here, which we recently sold. And right now she's working on this silver Super, as she calls it, which she's almost done. The next on the list is actually this custom Pyro. And then Wolverine will be after that. So for a long time, you're going to see him in the display case behind me, maybe a little bit below, until she gets to painting him. And of course, once she does, I will do another video on that. Now, before we dive into the basic stuff about this, I got to let you know, if you're not used to unpainted statues, paint can really make the statue. While we're going to do some close-ups and you're going to see such cool, extreme detailed design and sculpt on this, paint, if done correctly, will make it even more amazing. So you better not fuck it up, Mrs. X. So first thing we're going to look at, as always, is the concept of this piece. And some of it's hard to tell, so I'm kind of using my mind because paint can influence a little bit, most specifically with the base here. So it appears he's in some type of forest. You see some overgrown ivy. You assume it's going to be mud that she's going to paint in. There's a fallen helmet of another knight, maybe. Who knows? With some Wolverine scratches on it. We're going to look at it closer. And he is fully garbed out. Now, a lot of people wonder, why does Wolverine wear armor? Why does Wolverine have to have all these other weapons? Well, remember, while he has superhuman healing, he doesn't have insensitivity to pain. So he wants to do everything to protect himself from that pain, although I assume you get used to it over time. But these typical barbarian, medieval-style clothes, you see some armor, you see some kilt-like stuff. He has a bunch of stuff on him. Horn and bags and satchels. Who knows what's inside of them? Maybe food. A giant-ass sword in the sheath on the right side, which is pretty cool. And as you move up, he only has armor around his junk. He doesn't have any around his torso, because if I had a body like that, I would probably be shirtless as much as possible as well. But you move up higher, there's a few different switch-out options you're going to look at, but definitely I'm going to display him with the axe if he's going to fit in the display, because that's what makes him different. And again, why does he need an axe if he has claws And in full disclaimer, I don't have the claws displayed for a few reasons we're going to talk about in design. The axe gives him a little bit more reach, plus it looks incredibly badass. And then of course this portrait with the helmet takes it to the next level. So I love it. It kind of flows with the design of the other characters. I think it's a strong 4 out of 5. And remember, 3 is average, so 4 out of 5 is a great score. It's just not incredibly elaborate. The design, I wouldn't say it's incredibly elaborate, but it is elaborate. Specifically with the switch out pieces. Now this is technically not a true kit, not like an old garage kit, because all the magnets were already in place. But what they did is, they kept a lot of pieces separate. So for example, some of Wolverine's teeth, a lot of these small pieces here, so it's easier for a painter to paint. Check out the unboxing and assembly of it. One box, which I'm always very, very thankful for. Little bit of an art box on the top. And here's a sticker that you'll put on the base after it is painted. And it was 2 layers with, as you see, a ton of parts for the reasons that I talked about. All right, moment of truth. We're going to see if he's going to fit in the display. I'll probably have to move the fatty Wolverine out. If not, I can always put him below. Because while he's not painted yet, he's definitely not my favorite. 15 inches on the widest part, about 11 on the depth. The axe, which is a display option, yes, is about 23 1/4. So he will fit in a standard Module case, which is nice. Now he's an interesting scale. As you can see, he's clearly bigger than a normal 1/4 scale Wolverine, but he's smaller than a 1/3, so he's right in between that. That's typically what they've been doing with this line. I don't like that, but I like that they're all the same. Now you do have a number of display options. I can't show everything to you on him, specifically the claws, but this hand right here can actually have 2 different sets of claws. You can have bone claws, and I know they don't look like bone claws, they have to be painted, or silver claws. Because assumably, if this was in the mid-ages, which he wasn't even alive yet, he would not have the adamantium bonded yet. Where all mine in the back actually have the option of bone or adamantium claws. Did I call them silver earlier? You know what I mean. Well, adamantium's made up. Either one of those would work with the different storylines below. Where here you kind of have to have the bone claws, although I'm glad they gave metal. And they are actually metal, as you see in these pictures. So his left hand can have the metal or bone claws in them, but it always drapes down to the side. The right arm can do 2 things. One, it can be holding this giant ass axe, and there's no room to put the claws in the hand if you do that. Or you can have one where he is holding up his claws. And again, I think it takes away from the whole theme. While I won't ever display this, I'm glad they gave this as an option. And of course, you can use the bone or the metal claws here. 4 different portraits. First one, a screaming portrait with the helmet on. Well, I think he looks goofy with the helmet on. Paint will tell a lot more. I definitely want to display it with this because it's different. And then one where he's more growling, kind of a really grumpy face. And then 2 unhelmeted portraits. And you can tell this was sculpted by Franco Carlissimo. I think of the 40 Wolverine statues I've owned, 15 have been done by him. Very similar portraits to what you're used to seeing. And then here's the other unhelmeted one. And then again, you have this helmet on the bottom. I think you can just set it wherever you want. You can see the scratches in it right here. So I definitely think some cool display options. I would have liked to see the claws coming out of this hand, even with the axe, because Wolverine's just awesome with claws. And maybe even a display option where he was holding the sword with his left hand. That would have taken it to the next level, I think. So regarding everything fitting together, it seemed to do pretty well. It seems like he's a little off balance and some of the heads don't stay in the best. I'm a little nervous about that, as well as the arm here. It almost fell out a few times. So I might have to have Mrs. X reinforce those. And then of course I think we're going to have to glue the claws in. But thankfully you have separate hands for the bone claws and the metal claws. So it's smart that they did that. Overall, I give the design a 4 out of 5 for now. I think they went really elaborate. I think it could be argued it's a weak 4 out of 5. If they'd done some of those other display options and not some of the concerns I have, I probably would say a high 4 out of 5. Now we're going to dive in some close-up video with the sculpt, and it is crazy how much detail there is in here. Check it out. Now, if you've never owned a kit before or even seen one in person, then it's hard to understand how this actually looks good. So this will probably be the most difficult part for her to paint, because look at the intricacies. You can see what I assume are vines like we talked about, and then a mix between rocks and vegetation and mud. So she's really gonna have to differentiate what goes where and what is a part of what. Where the piece itself, you can actually take off the different pieces. But that's where all the detail is, especially with his clothing and armor. So his boots down here, they kind of have this, the fur at the top to keep him warm. Because again, Wolverine still feels pain. Metallic boots on the bottom. Kind of some baggy pants with some folds in there. And then look at the detail on his chainmail, the torn kilt or skirt above it. A lot of texturizing in there. The wood grain on the horn. Look at the strap here. Really impressive. Some intricate design on these straps up here. Then even look at the sheath on the sword. Yeah, Mrs. X, this is going to take her a long time. But even the musculature looks fantastic. You can see some of the veins in there, very bulky. Like we talked about, if I had a body like this, I'd probably go around not wearing a shirt. Tons of little detail everywhere you look in this. Check out the club on the axe. It'll be interesting. I don't think she's ever painted metal before, so with the chainmail and the axe and the helmet, gonna see how she does on that. Look at the portrait here. Eyes and teeth are always some of the toughest thing. Thankfully, these teeth actually come out. And here's another portrait, kind of the grumpy face, very Franco. It's the hair. He always does the hair very similar. But there's a lot of detail in that hair. I mean, they did a great job with the print on this. You could literally spend hours just looking at different things like the ropes, the hilt of the sword, the straps up here that have some intricate design on the leather behind them. Yeah, this is going to be a beast to paint. She's probably watching this too. Good luck. Sculpt, in my opinion, is fantastic. Portraits could have been a little better. I just don't like the direction they went. They're done well. So I think it's a 5 out of 5 overall, especially with so much of the stuff on the body that we looked at. So this was a really expensive piece. And the reason it's so expensive is because they have so much street cred from the pieces behind me, which flip for anywhere from 2 to 3 times retail, even in this tough economy. But it was about $1,500. They made 35 of them. Now with that, it's only unpainted. You couldn't get it painted. You have to find a professional painter. So it cost a couple $100s to ship to me. Depending on where the painter is, it could cost anywhere from $50 to $300 to ship to them and then back. And then of course, for a painter to paint this, you're probably looking at a minimum of a $700, if not a $1,500 bill. Conservatively, you're gonna be about $2,500 all into this. Thankfully, I can pay for mine in sexual favors with my wife. So for me, the value is really good, but I think for other people, it's not a great value. I don't foresee this becoming what some people would call a grail like the other ones. Probably depends on how good the paint job is. So I think the value is probably a 2 out of 5 on this. I could be wrong. This could be extremely highly sought after, which will be great, but I had planned to keep it for a long, long time with those other Wolverines. Now, does he have the X Factor? I don't even want to judge it yet. We'll do that once he's painted, which is probably going to be a few months out. So make sure you not only like this video, but you sub to the channel and hit the bell notification. I will also post in-progress photos on the Extreme Channel's social media, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. The link for those is in the description below. So make sure to check those out. And then I'll actually grade him when he's all said and done. It's too hard when it's not painted.
Why would she say that?
So anyway, what do you guys think? Is he have the potential to beat any of those statues behind me? Throw that down in the comments below. I love to see your guys' opinion, and not only that, you could win a statue. As we try to grow this channel, we like to reward you guys for watching and subscribing. So because of that, every 5,000 milestone when it comes to subscribers, we give away a couple $1,000s worth of statues. We've actually given away over 20 statues. To win one is easy. First, you gotta be subscribed to the channel. You'll get bell notifications when videos drop. Each video that drops, you wanna make a comment on those videos. We pick a random video, we give away statues based on a comment. You can say whatever you want. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Hey, appreciate you guys tuning in. This is a very cool piece, and I don't have anything clever to say on the way out. Go fuck your mom. What?